The gentleman we have with us today is known as the king of search engine optimization, otherwise known as SEO. It's one of those terms that people outside the industry don't really know what it means. But when we're talking about SEO, we're talking about optimizing your web pages so that the search engines will index you higher. That way, when people look for you by your keyword, hopefully your page is then findable. Otherwise, you're not going to get visitors through the search engines. He teaches thousands and thousands of people how to optimize their pages, and he's known for his course called The Stomper, Stomping the Search Engines. He is also the co-founder of FreeIQ, a brand new multimedia site that hosts media that goes way beyond what most traditional media sites can do. And he also runs a 8-figure online e-commerce business selling wedding favors. Some very impressive stuff, and you're going to learn a lot. Please welcome to the stage my friend, Mr. Brad Fallon. Hey, buddy.
Hey, Joel.
Enjoy.
All righty. Great to be here. So this is the lucky 7, huh? All right. Well, today I thought we'd talk a little bit about e-marketing, e-business, and kind of doing things a little bit bigger, better, and faster, especially. Does that sound pretty good to everyone? So before we get started, because we're going to talk about making money online, and not just making money, but making money faster. And it's always an interesting question. Would you rather learn how to make a little bit of money fast, or would you rather learn how to make a lot of money next? Do you see what I'm saying? Some people have a problem because they're going after a really big hit, but they just never even get in the game. They're still working for someone else while they're trying to build their own business, and they just can't get to first base. Other people are so busy running to a different first base all the time that they never get a chance to hit doubles and triples. So we're going to talk a little bit about the philosophy of building an internet business according to a strategic plan, just thinking a little bit more strategically about what it is that we're trying to do. So since we have a couple of hours together, and we can really have time to drill down into some kind of advanced strategies and tactics and all that kind of stuff, I thought that we'd start first and kind of go around and find out a little bit about what would be the best use of everyone's time here. Fortunately, all of you have made it to this point, so we're going to talk about some really kind of advanced stuff about internet marketing. Words you've probably never heard before, stuff that companies... for example, at our company, one of the things that I've found is that as we've grown, we have about 120 people now. And one of them is a chief experience officer, a CXO, that we stole away from Microsoft. You know, a 6-figure guy. And when you get the resources, as you make more, then you can invest more. And then you get all these advantages, so it gets easier and easier and easier to pull away from all the other competition. And so I'm going to share some of the things with you guys that are pretty advanced that most people starting out in internet businesses really don't have a chance to access, and some kind of advanced concepts. But I thought first I would just take a couple of minutes at the beginning, since there's only 7 of us and now 8, we can talk about what it is that you guys think would be the most benefit. So I wrote down a couple of questions. We'll go around, and I'm curious to know what you do for a living, and what you'd like to do for a living, and why. And I guess I want to know if you sort of have already got clear in your head, which most entrepreneurs do. They tend to be goal-oriented, they tend to be optimistic, they tend to be, future-looking. They think there's a bright future out there if they work hard and apply themselves. And so I want to know, if you sort of know where you are and you sort of know where you want to be, what's the one thing that you sort of think is stopping you, the main constraint, the main obstacle that's in your way? Is it learning something, or maybe having investment capital, or just whatever you think it is? What do you think is the one thing that's sort of stopping you from being where you want to be? And then what do you need for that to go away? So what do you do? What do you want to do, and why? What do you think your biggest obstacle is to getting there? And then I'd like to know, of all the things that you've learned so far in this program, what's the one thing that's kind of you think is going to make the biggest impact on your own business and your own internet marketing career? So what's the one best thing that you've learned so far? And then I want to know, what do you think's the one thing that you need to learn or get good at or get more knowledge or get more, what do you need to learn about internet marketing and business in general in order to get where you want to be as fast as you want to get there. So just a few questions. What do you do? What do you want to do and why? What do you think your biggest obstacle is? What have you learned so far that's the best? And what 2 things you want to learn about internet marketing and business to get where you want to be? So we'll start here and say your name, because you guys have gotten to know each other real well, but I'm unfamiliar. So tell me your name, where you're from, what you do.
Sure. My name is Thor Schrock. I'm from Lincoln, Nebraska. I own a computer repair company with offices in Lincoln and Omaha, Nebraska. I also monetize pages using AdSense and organic SEO.
Cool. And what do you want to do?
I would very much enjoy having enough online properties or websites, if you will, to generate a large amount of content, not necessarily through AdSense. A lot of the stuff that I've learned here in the last few days has kind of shown me that while AdSense is cool and it rocks and you can make a lot of money at it if you do it right, there are other big things that you could kind of foolish to turn a blind eye to.
It's hard to pick sometimes.
I'm sorry?
It's hard to pick sometimes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that you can do. And so you're not a full-time internet marketer? Do you want to be, or you want to just grow your own business with internet marketing?
Well, I definitely want to grow my brick-and-mortar business, but I do want to develop I want to remove myself from that process for the most part. I have a really competent staff. I'd like to let them run that business, and then I would still interact with my customers, which is what I enjoy doing. I enjoy talking with people. I enjoy interacting. I like selling things. So if I could keep doing that, that would be perfect. But I'm working way too many hours right now, and I'm missing a lot of time with my family, and that's something I want to change.
Thank you very much.
I'm Jamie Luchuk. I'm from Toronto, Canada. And right now, I'm one of these 9-to-5ers. I don't own my own company right now. So I work as a web editor in a communications branch of a company. And I guess I'm looking to get out of that. I'm just preparing myself, learning all of the different aspects of internet marketing so I can launch myself out of my 9-to-5 and into my own business.
So you want to be a full-time internet marketer?
Internet marketer or run an online business. Learning that there are so many ways to make money and so many ways that I've missed out on so far. So,
have you started to really nail down what kind of business you want to start with, or are you still exploring all kinds of options?
I'm exploring options, and I have so many interests, and what I need to learn how to do is take my interests and learn how to make money from them, because I've learned that if I'm not interested in something, you can pound away at it for a while, but you lose interest. So I have to really learn, like Thor said, how to develop product for your interests and learn how to market it.
Right. Good point. So what's the best thing you've learned so far?
Well, I've learned a lot from all of the lectures. But probably the best thing I learned was yesterday we had a seminar on, I'm losing track of my days, but we had a seminar on finding your market and taking your products and developing, to flank other businesses, or how you would best develop a product similar to others but different than others so that people are going to be interested in yours, even though there are so many competitors out there.
Cool. And what is one biggest thing you want to learn about internet marketing still that you think would be helpful, and also about business?
I think more consolidating ideas. I have tons of ideas and they're all floating around, and I think I need to learn how to take something and build it.
So
I'm not sure if that's internet marketing or more just product development, product creation.
Is it sort of how to get started?
Strategies.
Or,
I guess there's also, building traffic to your sites. I'm interested in that.
So what do you think your biggest obstacle is now?
My biggest obstacle is, well, that's not really going to help you, but probably myself. But I think my biggest obstacle right now is just taking all the information and sorting through it and then just putting a plan together.
Sure. Okay, cool. That's helpful.
My name is Charles Trippi. I'm a student at the University of South Florida. Currently, I'm obviously a student, and I do monetize videos online, kind of like product placement videos, whatever, little commercials or spoofs on commercials, and and I don't remember the rest of the questions.
Well, is that pretty much like what do you want to do? Is it you
I
just want
would
to keep
like to
building
continue
that?
doing that, obviously, to a grander scale, possibly, on television or whatever, or continue doing it online because there's such a high demand for funny content or interesting content online. So
you think there's huge business profit potential in that? If you just
nobody
keep
watches
building
TV.
that.
Very little people watch TV.
Yeah.
Most people are watching 3-minute videos online.
What would you say is your biggest obstacle to getting there faster, or is it just a matter of time and keep doing what you're doing?
There's probably things I could tweak, but I think it's just got to keep work on it and can't quit. So just eventually, I think I'll get there.
Cool.
Just maybe it's a little bit more strategy to it.
Cool. What's the biggest thing you learned in this?
A lot of the business end, like more of the proper business techniques and stuff, things like that. Because I was kind of doing it on my own, learning as I was going. Never had any formal training with it.
Sure.
And like listening to everyone talk, it's kind of like, opened up the little other doors or techniques I could use. So.
And how old are you now?
I'm 22.
Yeah. So, just so you know, they don't teach this in any school. So,
No.
That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of it takes a little bit of time, but there's certainly ways to speed up the process.
Yeah.
As opposed to just banging your head against the wall for
Right.
20 years.
It's just one of those things I just got to keep doing. Maybe get it faster, another technique on something like that. But I think if I keep going, then eventually.
What do you think is the number one thing that you still want to learn about internet marketing that would help?
The number one thing about internet marketing I would like to learn, more of that, how to monetize it better. I think because I'm doing it so much, I might as well figure a better technique to make more money from the stuff I'm already doing. And I think that's going to be kind of hard to figure out unless I sit down.
Cool.
My name is Jason Marshall, and currently I'm working as a one-on-one aide with a student who has muscular dystrophy. So I'm his aide. I stay with him throughout the school year, and in the summertime I'm a lieutenant on a beach patrol. And then I'd like to continue working with him. I have a great relationship with him, but monetarily, financially, it's not a great paying job, so I'm not there for the money, but it would be nice. I just got married, so.
Do you have an internet business so far? Or?
We're in the ground floors. I was probably about a couple weeks away from possibly launching something. It was a way for me to take action with what I've learned. It wasn't in my particular niche, but it was a way for me just to take action with what I've been, absorbing. And in the niche that I enjoy the most, which is evangelism, and some other areas. My wife and I are writing a devotional. We're in the process of that. So making some videos, like training videos and stuff that we're looking to make.
Cool.
So we'd like the future of that.
Cool. What's the best thing you've learned so far?
I really enjoyed the product launch that we got from Jeff Walker because you could have a product and monetarily the way you launch it can be huge. Can change. I take somebody from having a regular launch in business and take it to a whole nother level, just the way you launch and the way you promote it. So I really enjoyed that in the videos because I enjoyed videos. So yesterday it was good stuff from Mike.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this myself.
Yeah, it blew me away just how important that was.
Are you guys all familiar with StomperNet? Maybe did you all follow that or whatever?
Yeah, he mentioned that how big of.
Yeah, we launched our information kind of e-learning program on October 3rd of last year. So it's been 6 or 7 months ago, I guess now, and we sold 12 million in 12 hours. And you just couldn't do stuff like that before the internet. How do you have a brand new company and a brand new everything? And as far as we know, that's the record for selling information products online. Then we've launched a couple other things too that have been multi-million-dollar days, and work with Jeff Walker and stuff. But this is an interesting thing. This didn't exist a few years ago, and there's a lot of different. If you get good at that has a lot of value. What's the one sort of obstacle that you have? Is it that you have a full-time job and you can't work on it full-time, or is it? What do you think your biggest obstacle is?
That is a problem. I mean, like I said, one of my goals is to kind of, stay with him. So I'd like to supplement to that income and put a lot. I do have time when I'm with him because his teachers teach him. So I can check my email. I can do a lot of different things. I write a lot of the times while he's in. I'm writing different things, and we're scripting videos and stuff like that. So I can kind of dual. And then my wife, I'd like to have her work more full time behind the scenes at home and be able to do that, and for her not have to work.
What are the couple biggest things you'd like to learn about internet marketing and business?
I guess the staying power. How not to just launch in, blow up with a product, and then walk away and go, okay, what do I do now? But the staying power, being able to think long term and how to build a business versus just building a product and a launch and stopping there. But how to, gear it up so that way there's the staying power, there's the longevity in what I start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of the things about info products, right? It comes out, it launches, and it goes down. And you have another one, it goes down, another one, it goes down, and it's hard to. Another problem with that too is that a lot of people do info products around themselves, sort of a guru type of thing, and it makes it very difficult to build up equity in a business like that you could sell one day. You just have to keep coming out with new stuff all the time, and you can make good money. One of the things, I forget who told me this, but I definitely remember the phrase that cash flow is like heroin. And there's been great information publishers or information marketers, over the last 20 or 30 years, and most of them have not retired or died with a lot of money. They just get really addicted to being able to launch something and make a lot of money, and that's not really building a sustainable business that one could sell or pass on or retire from. So, something to remember. Cash flow is like heroin.
Hey, Brad. My name is Nico Pisani. I live in Costa Rica. I've been there 5 years, but I've actually been doing business down there for about 10 years. And I do a lot of conventional, different businesses down there. But to get right into what is important here is, about 4 months ago, I put together a team of University of Costa Rica graduates that specialize in PHP scripting, and I purchased Ultrasoft's video share script and put them to work modifying it, and I'm getting ready to launch the first Costa Rican tourism video share site.
Oh, cool.
And so I'd like to monetize it in several different ways, e-commerce, exporting coffee, cigars, and different things, membership services like dating and whatever, but that would be the private side, AdSense, of course, advertising, and real estate, because Costa Rica is one of the biggest real estate markets in the world right now as far as investment. So anything in that area of learning more about, from launching this site to, maintaining it, to anything I have to do. And I know that you have the free IQ site, which is kind of similar. So I'm hoping, with that,
do
might
some stuff,
learn a lot.
What do you think, where you are, what's your biggest challenge now?
The biggest challenge now is, the immediate now is just getting it launched.
Okay.
Finishing, modifying the script. I mean, we've got it functioning. We don't have it open to the public, but it functions. We can upload videos to it and stuff. I'm trying to, get them to tweak the script, so I like the design on it and different things, and and then getting the launch off.
All these software projects and stuff, the last 5% always takes 90% of the time, it
Right.
seems like.
So
getting going.
I'd like to launch it with the premiere of this show, actually. So
What's the best thing you learned here?
a lot of different things. Product launch. Marlon Sanders was, incredible.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
A lot of different things about the technical side of how things actually work, and you're like, oh, I've been doing that, but I couldn't actually put a model on it. So, and one of the biggest things he reminded me of is, be passionate about what you're doing, and stick to your guns and go straight forward and be aggressive. And so, because I kind of forgot that coming here, I've been kind of laid back. So,
Yeah, good point. Okay, great, thanks.
I'm Laura from Austin, Texas. I quit my full-time job a few months ago, and now I'm doing affiliate management for an AdWords guy.
For what?
For an AdWords guy. Some guy who teaches AdWords.
That's great. So what do you want to do?
Don't know yet. Not exactly sure. I like copywriting. Know a lot about teleseminars from just being on them forever. And
Did anyone else notice you could do teleseminars all day, every day, if you wanted to, and not really get anything done? But there's a lot of teleseminars out there.
Oh yeah, believe me, I was on them for like 18 hours a day. I'm not exactly sure what I want to do because I don't know what my niche or niche or field is, and I don't want to take anything that I'm passionate about and drive the passion out of it. Maybe if I work too hard on it.
Cool.
So maybe my biggest problem is going to be taking all of the stuff that we've learned here and applying it to whatever it may be later.
Right. What's the best thing you learned here?
I liked a little bit of everything. I liked the simpleology a lot, just working backwards. And I liked Armin's stuff on all of the generators.
On what? Lead generation?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just basically liked everything so far.
Great, cool. And last but not least,
Hi, I'm Alison Chen. I come from Port Coquitlam, Canada. And currently right now I mainly am a homemaker who is heavily on the internet. I am a semi-pro poker player.
pardon?
I'm a semi-pro poker player,
Oh, cool.
and I also do some stock trading for a women's investment group.
Which is harder?
Sorry?
Which is harder?
Stock investing. But it's fun.
Yeah. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit on the internet right now.
Sorry?
I said there's a lot of low-hanging fruit on the internet right now with poker sites.
Yes, and the difficulty with poker is there's a lot of different ways that you can attack that. And also another thing that's difficult about making money with poker is there are some issues with gambling sites, and you have to sort of be very careful about which way you approach poker, because they do ban certain things you can't use AdSense for certain ways of presenting gambling. So if I didn't pick that topic, then I wouldn't have to worry about that.
Right.
I mean, right now, currently I have a poker review website which doesn't do any gambling, but it's an information website. It's pokerreviewsvegas.com, and you just go there to find reviews on poker rooms, but it's not making any money.
Cool. What's the biggest thing you've learned so far? Here.
I've learned that all the things that I've heard about in the last 4 or 5 days, I just sort of wrote some things down about how I can apply it. Before I came here, I was pretty lost, have a lot of skills, a lot of ideas floating around, and I didn't really know how to tap into them, but I'm actually sort of starting to formulate. So for example, the things that I'm interested in martial arts, poker, self-development. Okay, those are some of my passions. I'm sure there's others that I could probably think about, but what I would probably do now after coming away from the show is I would sit down and let's just take, say, martial arts, for example. I would use Marlon Sanders' session and what I learned there and think, okay, what kind of things are happening in martial arts on the internet? What is being presented out there? So if I was to do a product in martial arts, how would I approach it? So before I didn't really even know how could I take an idea and define what I would do with it. So I'm thinking, well, okay, I could take my martial arts passion and go, what things are out there? Should I make a product that is going to be a flanking type of product that has to do with martial arts, or should I do a guerrilla approach? I wouldn't even know to ask that type of a question before, to narrow down what will I take that topic and what do I do with it. So now, knowing how to ask those questions of myself, I can sort of get a hint about what direction I want to take. Then once I take that direction, this is what I'm thinking, is I can take Mark Joyner's session about how to narrow down, okay, now that I have my product idea, I'm going to, attack the competition's weakness. How do I get there? And I'd use his symbology, and I'd plug in a question for myself, and I'd work my way backwards to see how I could do that. And so that's where I learned that. And then once I got my little game plan with symbology, I would take Jeff Walker's session about product launch. So now you've kind of worked your way backwards. How you use his product launch, the pre-launch, that sort of thing. Put that all together. Now, and so this whole entire show has taught me, let's take an idea and let's put a game plan together, and these are the questions I need to ask. Right. Now that I know how to ask them.
One of the challenges of sort of internet marketing businesses is that it's kind of the flip side of the advantages. The advantage is it costs almost nothing to start an internet business. I mean, our own company, we probably started less than a couple $1,000 or whatever, and and get up to 30 million in sales in 3 years. I mean, where else can you do that but the internet? But on the other hand, the flip side of that is that there's so much stuff to learn, and it's all good, and it's just like anything else. It sort of builds, and as you learn more, then you kind of reinforce what you already knew, and you learn some, and the pieces start to fall together, and eventually you if you keep plugging at least in one direction, you can get a business going and profitable and grow. People often start a bunch of different things and never get the one actually going, but eventually the pieces sort of fall into place like that. So, well, that's interesting. Before we get started, does anybody have any questions? And we'll try to make this interactive since there's only 7 of us. But I'm going to try to share with you, in the time that we have, some ideas that I wish someone had told me when I first started. And other people have told me some of these things. And I'll share with you what I think is helpful. And let's talk about making money. The real question is, there's a lot of talk about making money, but I want to focus for the next couple hours on how do you make money faster. And does anyone know who this is? You're right. Does anyone else know who this is? This is Lick, if you just stopped right there. Everyone called him Lick. He was born in 1915 and he died in 1990. J.C.R. Licklider. And he was kind of the Johnny Appleseed of the internet. He didn't invent the internet, but he hypothesized that computers could be networked together, and he was at the first ARPANET and things like that. He was a real visionary. And he said that, and you'll hear this quote attributed to lots of different people, including Bill Gates. Most people refer to it as just an old maxim. But we think that he was the first one to really talk about this idea that people tend to overestimate what can be done in a year and underestimate what can be done in 5 or 10 years. And I think that people underestimate what can be done in a year, with good reason, because we don't think about that enough. So wherever we are in our business, let's call it point A, and we want to get to point B, and we want point B to be bigger. We want the business to grow and make more money, and I'm going to assume for purposes of this conversation that none of us are doing this for a hobby. We want to do this for a living, and the purpose of a business, does anyone know what the purpose of a business is? Ellie Goldratt put a lot of thought into this, and we might talk about him later. He's the one that really invented the theory of constraints. The purpose of a business is to make money now and in the future. And the trick is, how do you get to be faster? So it's not just money, it's also this time element. And so the question is, of these two things, which one's more important? Time. Why?
Because you can't get it back.
That's right. You know what? If you're growing fast and you're making tons of money coming in, you're going to be losing money all over the place. Inefficiencies here and there, and whatever. My wife and I started myweddingfavors.com together in our basement just over 3 years ago. And as we've grown from our basement to a spare bedroom to 1,700 square foot office to 3,000 to 7,000 to 14,000 to 30, down 40,000 square feet, you can imagine that there's been a lot of chaos and just change and it's almost chaotic to grow that fast. And so sometimes we'll just look back at a month or a quarter saying, man, there's a ton of money slipped out over there. And so my wife, being a very detail-oriented, hands-on kind of great executor kind of doer, will say, we lost like $40,000 this month on AdWords over here. And I'm like, you're right, we did. Shoot, we got to get on top of that. But while we were not watching the ball over here, we put $2 million in the bank over here in cash on this project. And so stuff will slip out all over the place. But you can always get the money back. You're right. You can always get the money back. Time, if you waste it, it's just gone. And the opportunity cost, people usually think about money. Like, well, if I'd have done that sooner, I would have made more money, sure. But they don't count the compounding of that over time. It's not just the money that you didn't make, it's the future value of that money for the next 5 or 10 or 20 years or whatever. You're going to be in business or until you sell it or whatever. So the opportunity cost is usually a lot more than people think. And so I think time's really the most important. I think the real constraint is almost always time, not money, and focus on speed. And the thing is, there's a lot of books out there on how to build a business. There's a lot of information on how to hire people better, for example, or how to analyze your numbers better, or how to do strategic planning. But there's not a lot of great information on there on how to do all of that faster. Ton of books on how to hire good people. Where's the book on how to hire good people fast? Because if you're really in a rapid growth mode, you've got to be thinking about systems and procedures and policies and systems where you can be effective but do it faster. It's not enough just to do it. In business, you have to do it faster. And so we're always, as entrepreneurs, thinking of ways that we can be more profitable or launch a new product or whatever it is. And usually we don't have a shortage of ideas or even good ideas. There's just a lot of good ideas, and it's a filtering problem more than anything else. And so the question is, what good is a good idea? Does anyone know who this is? I speak literally around the world to often large audiences, and I have yet to have anyone know who that is. And I think that's really funny because this is the guy that probably had, do you have a guess? Or you just read? Nope, good guess. Some people guess, I've heard that guess before. Some people have said my grandpa. But no one ever knows this. And to me that's funny because this is the guy that probably had the best idea ever. Well, okay, maybe not ever. I mean, whoever invented the wheel was kind of big. Whoever, the printing press, I mean, there were some really big ideas. But this is the guy that literally invented the idea by which all other subsequent ideas are measured. He set the bar for what's a good idea. And I'll give it away. His name is Otto Rohwedder. Does that help everyone? And I think that's hilarious because this is the guy by which we measure all of our good ideas. He's the inventor of sliced bread. And so you would think that the guy has, and ever since then, every idea is, well, that's the best idea since sliced bread, right? He set the bar. So you would think that guy had a good idea. You'd think he made a lot of money from that. The trick in business, have a good idea and do some decent marketing, whatever, and you'll make a lot of money. Well, here's what happened to Otto. In 1912, he invented sliced bread. 4 years later, he had his first prototype. 12 years after that, he had his first sale. And 2 years after that, a completely different company made all the money and took it to market and executed. And so the point is that ideas really mean little. Execution's everything. There's honest debate on whether or not the internet really changes everything, particularly after the dot-com crash. But these days, I think most people that pay much attention really are aware that the internet changes things. So I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of big picture stuff, this whole internet thing or internet marketing thing, or really what I think is best to think of as interactive marketing. And so the question is, when was the internet invented? We always say 1969 and ARPANET and stuff like that. I like to think of the internet as being invented in 1844 because that's the first time that human beings could communicate electronically. The problem was, poor bandwidth, but the problem was it was one-way communication and both people had to be there at the same time. So the telephone in 1876 was a big thing because now there's electronic communication independent of space, across space, but again, both people have to be there at the same time. What's so cool about the internet, and really the best definition that I've heard of interactive marketing, is that it's two-way communication independent of time and space. And so from a big picture perspective, be aware that that's what we're trying to take advantage of. That's what's cool about it. That's what you have to get good at. How do you use electronic communication that's free, like email, or the marginal cost of an additional website visitor is zero. The marginal cost of putting another video on your site, particularly when it's hosted somewhere else like YouTube or FreeIQ, is zero. How do you use electronic communication to develop relationships with people and customers? And that's what interactive marketing is. So here's what happened with our company with the internet after, not the sliced bread timeline. In 2004, we sold over $1 million the very first year out of our basement because we started with a market. And we're going to talk today about how to analyze markets, how to analyze whether a product will do well before you waste a whole bunch of time and money getting into it. And SEO. One thing is keyword research. Are people searching for it or not? This is myweddingfavors.com. It's kind of what the website looks like today. It started on a Yahoo store platform, and now we build our own in-house. But that's My Wedding Favors. And so here's how it kind of started. This is January of 2004, and that was our very first month. My wife went and got some products at the local mart where they have kind of a wholesale market for different gift stores and stuff, and got some favor items and put them up on the website on the Yahoo store with probably a $50 a month free trial, 30-day free trial, and sold $11,000 the first month. And I was like, good job, honey. Keep it up. That's great. Second month was about $30,000, then $60,000, and $80,000. Really, our third full month in business of April was about $80,000. So that's a $1 million business any way you look at it. And it used to be hard to start a $1 million business. It used to be expensive. Now it's not. God bless the internet. $130,000 the next month. And now, kind of skipping ahead, we went on our own platform here, but like in March of 06 and April of 06, $600,000. Now the site, that one website today still sells about $600,000 or $700,000 a month. And the next year, though, we started a concept that I'm going to talk about and encourage you to think about because we got into the wholesale market. And we realized that there was a big market for people just like us that wanted to start Yahoo stores or e-commerce stores and sell products on the internet, but they didn't want to buy inventory and pick, pack, and ship and hold inventory, so we became a drop shipper and started doing what we were doing anyway for all of our competitors. And so we started manufacturing products in China. Now we import about 3 containers a week. But we started with just 10 products, SKUs, SKUs. We had 10 products and put them out there. And because of our retail experience, we understood the marketplace. I'm convinced that the most important thing in marketing is to really understand the customer. Does that make sense? People go into all kinds of different markets, and they have the right strategies, and they understand back-end marketing, they understand upsells, they understand cross-sells, they understand copywriting and headlines and all this stuff. But until you really understand the customer, it's hard. And if you do really understand the customer, then everything gets better because you know what kind of back-end products they'll want, and you know what kind of offers will make sense to them, and you know what kind of products they'll be interested in. And everything's better when you really understand the customer. And most people, Dan Kennedy was kind of well known for doing an example in seminars. We'd have people get out and write a couple of pages about their favorite sitcom character. And they could write for pages about someone they watch on TV. But he'd ask them to describe their customer, and they're kind of like, well, I don't know, most of them are female, and they, you've got to really, really understand the customer. Anyway, so the second year we sold almost $8 million with Kate Aspen, which is our brand, which is kind of funny. I mean, it's a brand that didn't even exist 2 years ago. Now we have full-page, double full-page ads in all the bridal magazines and things like that. And so the point is, I want to encourage you to think wholesale. As you're thinking about your products, as you're thinking about your market, as you're thinking about your business, most people think, I have a product and I need customers. Now, some people don't even get there. Some people take too long to get there. They're like, oh, well, I'm passionate about this, so I'm going to do that. Okay, what are you going to do? I'm going to create this product. And they'll spend months creating a product. Well, it's a business. Go get somebody else's product and make $1 today and then write your products on the weekend or whatever. You know what I mean? You have to get in the game faster. People spend sometimes years. I spoke over in China. We actually every year we do a China import seminar teaching people how to import physical products from China and get started. And that's great because once you buy the products as cheap as anybody in the world can get them, which is not hard to do. You just go over to the trade shows and you place orders. I mean, you can sell stuff on eBay or wholesale, retail, and when you get products really cheap, it gives you a lot of options. But when I was speaking in China, there was a guy who went there who paid all the money to go on this trip, and he'd been going around and joining coaching programs and training programs and going to seminars for like over 5 years and still didn't have his first website. Now, he had a lot of money and he made money, so it was almost a hobby to him, but he was, he really liked the idea of doing internet marketing, and he could afford to go to good seminars, get good information and stuff, but he didn't have his first website yet. And so sometimes people just take way too much time to just get in the game. That's one lesson, but hopefully you guys are already there. It's just get started, right? I mean, you can always make the site better. You can always add another product. You can always do a different market if that one doesn't work, but just get started. But bigger picture, I see a lot of people not consider this. Think wholesale. And so what's great about wholesale is that, let me kind of tell you why. This is from, I guess, a year and a half ago now, but What do you know? So the Associated Press said in November 27, 2005, that 1 in 6 U.S. web users sell online. Would you have thought that? Would you have thought that? I mean, we know that there's a lot of internet users, but 1 out of 6 is selling stuff on the internet. That counts all the people on eBay, which there's probably, 2 or 3, 400,000 people making a living on eBay, but that's a lot. Here's something I bet you didn't know. This is from just last fall in Newsweek. This whole idea of this kind of, now I'm sort of speaking about America. 45 million Americans, or 30% of the labor force, run their own businesses. That includes people that maybe have a job during the week and keep someone else's kids on the weekend for extra money. People join Amway. People, I tell people all the time, if you don't have a business, you're just missing a ton of tax deductions, right? Go join Amway for $50 and, you start deducting a whole lot of stuff. Just get some sort of business going. Well, a lot of people have figured this out. And sometime during their lifetime, well over half of college graduates will start their own business. So we're in an environment where it's cheaper and easier and more well-publicized, the benefits of owning a business. So more and more people are doing it. And so as we begin to think about our products and our customers and selling directly to the customers, think wholesale. And here's the point. It took me about a year and a half with retail online to get to $300,000 a month in sales. With wholesale, it took about 3 months. Why? Because it doesn't matter where you rank on Google. Just go sell to the people that are already on Google. So much faster, and it's so much more volume. Because no matter how many websites you could ever build, other people can build more if you combine them. So think wholesale. And so that's kind of what happened, was that it went from 1 million to 8 million, and then in 2006, it turns out that there's a lot of people that want to know how to do this, and so we launched StomperNet and combined. We'll probably do this year $20 million in sales and wedding favors, wholesale and retail, and then StomperNet. StomperNet is the world's leading internet marketing training program. We have over 1,000 members in more than 50 countries that go to our conferences and have ongoing learning about traffic and conversion and everything about internet marketing. The thing about wholesale is that it's leverage. So let's just brainstorm for a couple minutes while we're here. What are some ways, in addition to everything else that you're doing, what are some ways that you could wholesale? What are some ways that you could be in the wholesale business of internet marketing? Okay, so I said 1, you can have physical products like the ones you sell and offer to supply that, whether it's from your own pick, pack, and ship or it's from you outsource fulfillment, doesn't matter. You figure out good products. You go to other people that are in those markets and say, we'll send them directly to your customers. You don't have to buy them until you already have made a sale. Great. Here's a product. Here's a picture. Here's a product description. All you have to do is add it to your website, and we'll ship it to your customer, and we'll get some and you get some. Great. So that's wholesale physical products. What are some other ways that you could get in the wholesale game? Think wholesale.
Is it possible, electronically, leasing stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. What's a very common way to do wholesale information products? Resale rights, right? So you go to all the trouble to make a product, and you think about selling it to your own customers and your own back-end marketing. Sell the resale rights so everyone else can sell your product. And there's all kinds of different ways. I mean, there's whole courses on how to do resale rights. There, white label, private label, one time, total time, back-end sharing, everything. But think about resale rights. Think about info products. Affiliate marketing. Affiliate marketing is sort of other people selling for your retail side, but it's sort of the same thing. You need to think about not just your website and where you rank in the search engine, how much traffic you get, and how much you pay for each visitor, but think about how you can get tons of people doing your marketing, and I mean tons, thousands of other people doing your marketing for free. That's leverage. Thousands of people. You can build websites as fast as you want or build it up as much as you want and get more rankings on that one site, which is generally a better way to do it than building a bunch of little sites. But as fast as you could ever do it, you can't keep up with the rest of the world. So how do you get thousands and thousands and thousands of people sending traffic to you for free, and you don't have to pay them unless they make a sale? That's what's cool about internet marketing. Does that make sense? So think wholesale. Another thing, and this is really a little bit more business than internet marketing, is you have to think, what's next now? What's next? And the problem is that most people get good at things. They start out and they're bad at things. Then they finally start be good at things. And then they finally prioritize a little bit, so they're good at things that are actually making money. And they're making money. And they get stuck. Because they're doing things. And so my point is that if you're doing something you're good at, that's probably bad. What does that mean? It means that you're probably not at the next level. One of the things that I've found in business, and I'm sure this is no surprise to any of you, is that the skills it takes to run a $30 million company trying to go to $50 million is a completely different skill set and a completely different set of activities than the things it took to get to $1 million business and a $10 million business. Does that make sense? And so if you want to grow your business, and we've already sort of defined that the purpose is to grow the business faster. Well, if you're the type of person that gets bent out of shape at being a rookie, you've kind of got to get over that. Does that make sense? Because you're going to be doing stuff all the time, continuously, and hopefully faster and faster that you've never done before. And it would be unreasonable to expect that you'd be good at it. So you've got to be thinking ahead, what's next? How can I learn what's coming? How can I not get blindsided? How can I get mentors and teachers and information about what's coming ahead so that I can keep on the track? But at the same time, you've got to keep operating at a higher and higher level. And if you're going along just doing stuff that you're good at, you might be making great money, but you're certainly not building as profitable of a business or as much equity in a business that you could. Does that make sense? So I put this picture up here because it reminds me of the book Jonathan Livingston Seagull. How many people have read that book? Have you read it? I read it a long time ago, probably before you were born. And I just bought it recently, a couple of months ago. Have none of you guys read this book? It's a little story book for kids. It's about a seagull. It's real small, and it's a story about a seagull that learns to fly. But he's not like the other seagulls, right? I mean, he learns to fly really well. And that's all he cares about, just flying faster and faster and really practicing and learning how to fly really fast. And then it's a fiction story. After a while, he doesn't even fit in with the other seagulls, and they kick him out of the flock and all that, and he goes off by himself. And pretty soon, he meets people from like another plane of existence or something like that, and he's flying faster and faster. And pretty soon, they just think and they're there. You know what I mean? It's a fictional story, and they just think and they're all of a sudden there across the world or whatever. And people think, well, it's interesting. I mean, it's a story, but that doesn't really happen. And my point is, of course it happens all the time. In an instant, you can be there. If you think about it properly, there's all kinds of examples where people will be working on a project for months trying to do something to accomplish some goal in business, and it turns out that if you just partner with those guys over there, they've already got that, and just boom, boom, you're there. You didn't even have to do that, what you just wasted months on. In an instant, it's just there by being aware and thinking about more strategically how you can get there faster. And so when we're going from A to B, it's a little bit thinking outside the box. It's a little bit just sort of having our radar on. It's a little bit just being focused on speed and thinking about this picture from A Wrinkle in Time, which is being there in an instant by doing things different than other people were thinking. One of the ways to know if you're thinking in the right direction is, are you doing something? And I would say if you're doing something you're good at, that's probably bad. If you're doing something anyway, that's suboptimal. Generally speaking, the less you do, the more you make. What do I mean by that? Nico. The less you do, the more you make. What does that mean? So here's all the things that have to get done in your business. And if you're the only person in your business, you have to do it all, you can get a certain amount of things done. If this is your slice, but this is your business, the less you're doing of everything that has to get done, the more you're going to make. It's a much bigger business. The less you do, the more you make. The more you think, the more you'll make, but the less you actually do. You've got to think, you've got to strategize, you've got to set the direction, but You can't do stuff. I mean, you can. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a hobby. If you like to write copy, if you like, that's very high value work in some cases, great. But there's other copywriters out there that can be hired. Some of them are probably even better than you. When we launched the StomperNet thing, I hired the guy that wrote our sales letter. How many people ever heard of Frank Kern? We paid him $30,000 a month for about 3 or 4 months to be our copywriter. And a lot of people said to me, God dang, I didn't know you could hire Frank Kern. I said, well, I didn't either, until I asked. And I said, well, Frank, we'd like you to come work with us. How much would that cost? So I was like, Brad, I got my own business, and I like to surf every day. I couldn't really work what you would consider full-time. And I'm like, I don't care, but just work with us when you are working. How much? Well, I wouldn't consider doing that for less than $25,000 or $30,000. Done. You know how much money he made for us in those 3 or 4 months? Until he quit, and he realized that, he made something shy of $1 million last year net just doing his own business. And he's like, I went to too many of your seminars, and I realized that I have to work on my own stuff. So I was like, well, okay. So, but anyway, we're still doing some stuff together. But the point is you can hire copywriters. You can hire all of this stuff. And so if you want to build a business, you need some skills, you need some understanding about internet marketing, all these different things, product development, whatever. But if you want to build a business, it's about leverage. If you want to build a bigger business, it's you not doing stuff. Right? Okay, so the less you do, the more you make. This is an important concept that a lot of people don't get. This took me a while to figure out. And once I figured this out, it kind of made a lot of other things clear. I think that there's a continuum, and they're opposites end of the spectrum. They're opposite ends. One is strategy, and the other is execution. This probably isn't a shocker to hear this. I mean, this is something that we sort of intuitively know, but here's the problem. If you're going to have a successful business, which of these do you have to be good at? Sure, but I mean both, right? I mean, you can execute all day long, and if you're doing stupid stuff, which people do every day, by the way, people are working real hard on some business with some product that's never going to go anywhere, and they just, dude, why are you doing that? Don't do that, do that. It's, you got to be pushing in the right direction, but you got to push. So you have to be good at both of these things, but that's the problem. I said you. The business definitely has to be good at both of these things. And the challenge is it's very, very rare and very, very difficult for one person to be good at both. That's just the way it is. We're either smart or we're good looking. Very few of us are both. You know what I mean? It's just you have strengths and you have weaknesses. I mean, it's very hard for one person to be good because these are the opposite ends of a spectrum. And that's why it will come as no surprise to you that in the book Blueprint to a Billion, where some very smart people studied every company that went public since 1980 and got to $1 billion in revenue. They all had competitors doing the exact same thing, but the ones that got to $1 billion in revenue, every single one of them, there were 7 things that almost all of them had in common in every case. One of the things that they all had in, by the way, you should read that book. It's very interesting to know what were the 7 things that all the businesses that got to $1 billion in revenue had in common. One of the things that they had in common was that at the very top of the company were 2 people. One was outside focused and entrepreneurial and looking for the next thing and innovation and dealing with customers and vendors and partners. And the other person, not just like a VP of operations, but a key guy at the very top, was inwardly focused and backwards looking and tightening up the screws on the stuff that was already there. Key people at the very top. Blueprint to a Billion. And so it's hard for one person to be naturally hardwired to be good at these things. They're just different. They're the opposite ends of the spectrum. But the business has to be good at both. So if it's your business, you own 100%, and you have no partners, you've got to get other people with you. You either have 2 choices. The best thing is to get someone else with you that works with you full time. A partner is great. Somebody that's financially incented is great. That's good at the one that you're not good at. Or if it's just you, you've just got to be aware of this and be aware of where your strength, where you fall in this continuum. Some people are kind of in the middle, and they're kind of good at strategy and kind of good at execution. Not so much. Other people are pretty darn good at strategy and decent execution. Some people suck at execution and are really good at strategy. So my partner, Andy Jenkins, we have several businesses together, and he can execute like there's no tomorrow. If you want something done, give it to Andy. Me, on the other hand, I really enjoy the mental challenge and the figuring stuff out, the strategy, like figuring out, well, wait a minute, we're here and we want to go there and we could do this, we could buy this, we could build that, we don't even want to do that, we want to be in this. Well, I like figuring the stuff out. But once you figure it out, actually doing it doesn't really do anything for me. And once I realized that, it just made a lot of things more clear. But strategy is important. But then once you have the plan, there's other people that realize, that's great that you have a plan, but nothing counts until we actually get something done. And they enjoy the accomplishment of knocking things down and getting stuff done. And so you have to realize where you're on the scale. And if it's just you and you're the only one in the business, you've got to be aware of this and wear both hats. And you can do it, but you've got to put on the other hat and sit down. Today we're doing strategy, and you've got to plan the time in. Does that make sense? Okay. So here's what I say. Think visually, work linearly. When you work, see, most people run a company, most people run a business, and they make decisions like a dictator, and they execute like a democracy. Have you ever heard that? It's kind of one of those sayings that most businesses are suboptimal and don't do as well as they could because they make decisions at the top like a dictator, and then when it comes time for the team to carry it out, they act like a democracy. Well, maybe we shouldn't do that, and well, wait a minute, I think we should be doing this over here. And once the plan is placed, what you have to do is make decisions democratically and get buy-in and get everyone signed off on this is the plan. Then once you have the plan, you execute like a dictatorship. I'm going to talk about thinking visually. Some people know that they're visual thinkers or they like to read or whatever. I think that they all have their place for everyone. So I want to talk about shapes just for a second. This is something that I've been thinking about lately. Because it turns out, as my friend Eben Pagan says, that the visual display of numbers in graphs is one of the most profound things ever. And so I want to talk about shapes. A pie chart, a circle, a pie chart is for allocation. Where do you spend your time? Let me tell you what I think your job as the CEO of the organization is. And whether you have no employees or one outsourced contractor, or I'm going to assume that for the sake of argument that we're all trying to build a business here, and that means that you're going to be getting more and more and more done through other people, right? And so what's your job? Number one, you need to articulate the vision. And in order to do that, you've got to have one. And that's not easy, but it's not your job to just be the smart guy that figures it all out and then tells everybody else what to do. This is a team effort and strategic, plannings and getting everyone involved and making sure that everyone's bought into this is the plan. But you got to get it down to one piece of paper, one paragraph, one sentence. This is the vision. This is what we're about. We call it an elevator pitch, call it a mission. All that stuff doesn't matter. But the point is, on one piece of paper, we have whatever it is. And it's not the thing that hangs on the wall like a mission statement no one reads. But what is the vision? What are we about? What are we trying to be the best in the world at? You've got to have a vision. And then articulate it means that you've got to say it over and over and over and over. Every time you speak to the employees, every time you speak to the media, every time you speak to anyone, you're articulating the vision. But first you've got to have one. And then you've got to repeat it over and over and over and over so that nobody works in your organization. If someone comes in from outside, what do you guys do around here? They could tell them. Second thing you have to do is drive the culture. Culture is very important, means a lot of things, but it's you know what it is. It's the way that people feel about the company, it's the attitudes, it's the things that make that company unique. And you have to drive it. Don't let it be random. Having a good culture is at least as important as, probably anything else, right? And you can't let it be random. You've got to drive it. So while you're learning about getting better at AdWords, and while you're learning about how to write better headlines and how to create products, study what makes good companies from a cultural perspective. And when you meet people and you're networking and say, what's the culture like at your company? And is it good? Is it bad? What's good about it? What's bad about it? talk to people that have influence over that at other companies, and how do you do it on purpose, or did it just work out that way? And try to learn about how to create a good culture so that you can drive it, because it starts at the top. And there's two things that on companies that are important. This is the way I heard this said one time, and there's smart companies and there's healthy companies. There's smart companies and there's health companies. And if you want to build a company that's both, here's what you need to know. The smartness, you can hire that. If you need a better business plan, you can hire someone to write one. If you need a better product, you can hire better product development people. If you need better marketing, you can hire a marketing person. But the healthiness, and that's the culture, that starts at the top. And if the guy at the top is screwed up, then everybody else in the organization will be swimming upstream. Does that make sense? So you've got to work on yourself, and you've got to work on what you're trying to accomplish from a cultural standpoint. You've got to work on that. And so if you've never done that before and you don't really know what makes a good culture, how to do that, just put it on the list of things to look at. It's real important. That's the second key thing in the job. If you hire God, that will work. If God's not available for what you can afford to pay, then you need good managers. Have you heard of the book, First Break All the Rules? How many people have read First Break All the Rules? Okay, the rest of you need to go buy that book and read it. Because some very smart, statistically oriented data gathering people figured out what makes good companies compared one to the other. Like, for example, a company might have 200 branch offices. Why does that branch office make a ton of money, and that branch office doing the exact same thing across town or in the next town, they're not hitting their number? What is the difference? And it turns out that the difference is the frontline managers. The ones that are responsible for hiring the best people, the ones that are responsible for working with those people, make sure they enjoy their job and they retain those people, and developing those people. So, hire good managers. And we don't have time today to talk a lot about hiring people, but that's one of the things that you've got to get good at. So if you kind of just focus on this for the future, how do you create a vision? That's something to learn about. How do you talk to the media about it? How do you talk to your people about it? How do you articulate the vision? How do you do one-page business plans and things all over so everybody in the company knows what the vision is? Learn how to drive a good culture and learn how to hire, especially the managers. But if you look at the guys that are really good internet marketers that make $2 or $3 million a year working from home, most of them have never really hired people before, but it's something they're working on. The guys that I know in the last couple of years that are doing it, that I sort of mastermind and network and brainstorm with, are all trying to, number one, hire more people so they can get more done. They're going to work whatever they want to work. If you want to work 4 hours, 40, or 80 hours a week, doesn't matter. But the purpose of the business is to make money, and the fact is you can make a lot more money if you're not the one sitting there doing all that stuff. You get other people to do that, and then you can work on the next thing and more. And they all sort of start to figure that out. The second thing most of them start to realize is that the purpose of a business is not just to make money now. They're all successful, so they understand you don't do things that are unethical because that means you won't make money in the future. But the purpose of a business is to make money now and in the future. One of the things that violates that rule is if it's just a guru business, right? And so Armin Morin, for example, is a great example where it was used to be his business was all about Armin, Marins, whatever. Now he's starting to just be generator, you know what I mean? And he's getting his name off of it so that he could potentially one day sell that business to someone else. And whether he sells it or not, the fact is he'll be building up more equity in that business because it's not just all about him. So that's one thing that he can do to make more money in the future, as opposed to cash flow just being like heroin and just thinking about the cash. You have to think about the equity, and that's leverage. So there's leverage of time, of other people working besides just you, and there's leverage of money. Leverage of money is like owning a house versus renting a house, right? So if you make whatever money the business makes, plus the equity of the business is growing for free, just like a house going up in value, while you're doing whatever it is that you do, you get this whole other thing building up. That's leverage. So let's talk about your job as an internet marketer. Is this helpful, by the way? I realize that this isn't like, hey, here's how you can get a lot more traffic tomorrow or something like that, but we're going to get to some stuff about, that I think will be really good leverage for some of these things too. But let's start with the big picture a little bit. In the pie chart of the internet marketing role, there's only two things to worry about. One is traffic and the other is conversion. This is marketing-wise. I didn't say products like, you have to have a product or whatever, but the more products you have, more whatever. But the point is, there's search and there's affiliates. And that's the way I look at it. I'm just trying to kind of give you the way, as we pick up all these pieces about all these different things about internet marketing, the trick is to get the pieces to fall into place, and I think it helps if you start at the high level. This is the high level, traffic and conversion. Traffic, I divide into search and affiliates. Affiliates is affiliate marketing, banner ads, anyone that you're paying or revenue sharing with to send you traffic. Search is a little bit different because people are looking for what you sell and coming up, and you've got organic SEO and pay per search. So the question is, how many people think that, what's today? Today is about halfway through a year, and how many people think that for the rest of this year, do you think that for your own business and what you're trying to do to make money, do you think that you have more low-hanging fruit by getting more traffic? There's no right or wrong answer. I just want to know what you guys think. Do you think there's more low-hanging fruit for you to get more traffic, to learn how to get more traffic to what you're trying to promote? Or do you think that you could do better if you improved the conversion rate of the traffic that you already have? Maybe you have a great product and great sales letter or whatever, and you're not getting much traffic. Maybe you're getting a lot of traffic, it's not converting. Where do you think you are going to get the most bang for the buck if you had to pick one, a little bit on one side or the other? How many people think they could do more if they had more traffic? How many people think they could do more if they had better conversion, selling better to the customers that they've already getting to the website? Yeah, I'm going to talk about conversion more than the SEO. SEO is one of those things that's sort of almost become a commodity. Back when we started teaching SEO, people didn't know that the anchor text mattered. And you would tell people that, and it made all the difference. And now, now everyone knows that. So it's just a matter of executing and getting more pages built on your site and getting more good quality. And plus, the search engines get smaller all the time. And the fact is, the stuff that you need to be doing anyway as a good, solid business owner when you want to make money now and in the future, that's one of the problems I have with, how the guys would just build a lot of AdSense sites and just pump out a lot of AdSense sites. Well, the problem is with that is not that you can't make money, but it's not as highly leveraged because you're not really building up equity. Over time, these sites all go down like that because Google keeps, Google's not for that. And so you're basically doing the opposite of building up equity. Whereas if you have one good quality site that you keep building more and more good links to and more good content on that's more legitimate, then whatever it is you're making, then it goes up. So the graph for here's time and here's money, if you launch an AdSense site, you can make a few bucks pretty quick and then it goes like that. You know what I mean? These ones, they start out a little bit slower, but then they go like that. So over time, you're getting leverage out of something that's a appreciating asset over a depreciating asset. Does that make sense? So anyway, I used to teach SEO a lot, and I used to kind of talk about how search engine marketing, or SEO, is kind of the holy grail of marketing. I thought, man, that's as good as it gets, right? Here you've got a product for sale, and you're going to be there on the first page of Google right at the top when people are actually looking for what you sell, and you get the traffic for free. That's the holy grail of marketing. And then I realized that it's not. It's pretty cool, don't get me wrong, and you should do it, and it should be part of your strategy. But what's the holy grail of marketing? Well, yep, that's always the ultimate goal. But attracting the right customers that want to buy from you, yeah. But if somebody's in the market for wedding favors or whatever, and they go type in wedding favors, your site comes up, you can get some traffic. But to me, the holy grail of marketing is when someone doesn't go to Google and type in wedding favors, they go to the address bar and type in your brand name. Because they know you, they like you, they trust you, they have a relationship with you, they like the brand, the branding, and all that stuff that we never respected as branding. That's what it's about. And it doesn't have to be Coca-Cola. It could be myweddingfavors.com or cornerstorkbabygifts.com, but people are going to come back when next time they need to buy a baby gift for someone. They're not going to go the next time to Google and type in baby gifts. They're going to go to the address bar and type in cornerstorkbabygifts.com. That's kind of the holy grail. The other holy grail, by the way, that's pretty darn cool, we talked a little bit about is affiliate marketing. I mean, Most businesses that have a decent product in real life, if they had a better salesman or a better sales force or whatever, they could do better. Well, when you can have as many sales guys as you want, and you don't have to pay them unless they make a sale, that's pretty good. For most bricks and mortar businesses, if you put a little bit of thought into how can you hire a commissioned sales force, there's no limits on how many of them you can take. It's just how well you can organize and manage the thing. But most people can hire commissioned salespeople better than they think or better than they're doing now. And if you don't have to pay them unless they make a sale, that's pretty cool. And that's what affiliate marketing is. So, but anyway, in terms of the low-hanging fruit, a lot of people get websites, they get some traffic. People go there, they come back, they're doing all this stuff. There's so many different ways you can get traffic. And the problem is that any one of them is just one, and they're all different. Whereas if you make a change to a conversion thing, like we did on our website after the site's been up 3.5 years, we did something last week that's looking like it might be a 20% lift. 20% of 600,000 or 700,000 sales a month. That's one thing that's now going to affect all the different traffic sources. First, I go over here and do this little traffic thing, and then that helps. But you see what I'm saying? There's a lot of leverage in the conversion generally. So I'm going to talk about conversion with the time that we have today. Give you some lessons for conversion. Number one, design matters. People are out there trying to make a living. God bless them. And they're trying to put food on the table for their family, and they're working hard, and their websites look like crap. How many people know what I'm talking about? Do you not recognize a crappy website when you go to it? So, people come to me all the time and say, hey, could you help me? Or I'm like, okay, how can I help? And it's like, well, I got this website, and I'm not making as much money as I want. And, well, how much traffic are you getting away? Well, I'm like, show me the site. You look at the site, and you're like, that looks like your 7th grade son made it in his first HTML class or something at the kitchen table. I mean, that's not a big company. Nobody's going to buy from that. It looks totally homemade, and it looks like a kid made it. Do you see what I'm saying? You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. The design matters. It's web design. And the problem is that it's hard, admittedly, to hire good web designers. Anybody who can spell HTML thinks they're a web designer. And if you run an ad for a web designer, you go to a firm that does web design, there is a ton of crappy web designers out there. Forget about all the people that think they're internet entrepreneurs trying to sell stuff on the internet, and they're doing their own web design. Okay, so lesson number one is design matters. And I can't give you every tip in the history of the world for how to go hire a great web designer affordably or whatever. It depends on what stage your business is at or whatever. I can tell you that when we had our first in-house web, we didn't start with an in-house web designer. We started with outsourced contractors as we could get them. And we're always in the market. One of the things I say at work is we're always in the market for some good things. We are always in the market for a killer web designer, whether it's full-time or contract or whatever. Now we have like 2 that are full-time that are both like 6-figure guys, but in the beginning we just had an outsourced contractor. Then we had one for about $45,000. Our next one was maybe $65,000 a year. Our next one was probably like $80,000 or $90,000 a year, and the next one was like $110,000. And every time we're stepping it up, and the conversion's going up, and things are getting better. Well, if 2 years ago I had just gone to the 110 guy, do you know how many more hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions, literally, that I would have made over the last, if I just gotten the better, you see what I'm saying? So design matters, and I can't give you every tip in the history of the world to how to do that with your stage in the business, but just note to self, that's something you want to work on. You want to have more ads out on Craigslist, they're free. You want to have ads out on MySpace, they're free. You want to always be trolling and looking and networking for good designers. And most of the people that come to me and say, Brad, could I pay you $500 an hour to have you help me? It's like, you don't need me to advise you what to do. What you need to do is, wherever you are, great. You have a website, making whatever you're making. Forget about the $20 an hour web designers. Just go find one $150 an hour web designer. Oh, that's ridiculous. Well, you only need him for about 6 or 8 hours, and he can completely change the header, the navigation, and the home page. Right? For probably 10 hours, maybe 20 hours. So somewhere between $1,000 and a few $1,000, you can go from a crappy website to a killer website with some guy that works at a killer agency doing the best web design in the world at hourly rates. And he's billing the client $75 or paying him, for $150 an hour, about $100, $125 an hour. He's making $40 or $50 an hour. Well, you pay him $100 an hour, and he'll be excited to work for your stuff on the night and weekend. So $100 an hour, 10 hours, $1,000, a couple $1,000, you can completely revolutionize the way a website looks. Does that make sense? Now, the little sales letters and stuff, it's not so hard. You just kind of copy the best practices that are out there when you're getting started, the color of the headline, the color of the background, the spacing, just go with the guys that know what they're doing. They've already done the testing and the work and whatever, and you could probably design that yourself. But if you're selling things on physical products or e-commerce or stuff like that, design matters. Here's an example. One of our websites was 2cutebabygifts.com, and this was the original site. I mean, it's not that bad. You know, I've seen worse. The top was right under Design Matters. So thin header, phone number at the top, left-hand navigation, nothing too out of the ordinary. It wasn't bad. But we redesigned it, gave it a better left-hand navigation, subdivided it, put the search box over there, put tabs across the top, so it just looks a little bit more designed, better picture, better search. Anyway, we just redesigned it. That's all we did, just redesign it. This is something that would probably cost not that much. And here it is. The green is the new and the blue is the old 1 week later, just tracking 1 week later by day, every day. The bounce rate is better. Bounce rate is one of the big things, by the way. How many people just come to the homepage and leave? That's sort of a key metric. And it got better. Typically, you'll find 50% is kind of somewhere to start, but it really doesn't matter where you start. It's like a lot of these things. I tell people at our company all the time, one of my favorite sayings is that it doesn't matter how much we suck as long as we know we suck and we're working on getting better. And the whole idea is just continual improvement. That's any business, just trying to get a little better every day. But you can't get better at everything all at the same time. So figuring out what do you want to get better at? Well, the bounce rate is one of those kind of key metrics. But you're going to look at your overall conversion rate. And then part of that, once you start figuring out your funnel, like we're going to look at it in a second, the bounce rate is kind of where that starts because that's the beginning of the funnel, how many people bounce. And so you look at how many people go on the home page, how many bounce right off there, how many go to this, how many people add to cart, then how many people convert. And so the bounce rate is kind of a key thing. So that's one of the things you'll be watching, and as long as you just get better at it, then you start where you start, and who cares? And it's never, you can always kind of make it better. If your bounce rate was 0, I guess maybe not, but it's just one of those things you're always going to work on. After the redesign, time on site went up. Pages per visitor went up. Second thing is the usability. There's something called a foveal view. And when a human being looks at a web page, you don't see all of it at once. You see like this much area. And so we created some software to kind of, based on the science behind it, to kind of show what a human being sees. And you can kind of go to this website and you can move your mouse around and you can kind of see what people are seeing while they look at the site. So like, for example, when you show a price, you want to put the guaranteed low price or the sale price, within view of the product. So when the product picture catches their eye, they can also see on sale or, whatever. So there's this concept that the important things have to kind of be together. It helps with the ranking of the categories and stuff like that. This is we have our own, how many people have seen like these kinds of heat maps and things like that before? The state of the art for this is what's called a Tobii eye tracking machine. And we have one of those in our usability lab in Atlanta. And it's like a $40,000 piece of equipment, but it makes a big difference. And so there's a lot of principles that you can learn. Let's assume that you're not going to go out and buy a $40,000 Tobii eye tracking machine, and somebody like our chief experience officer that's qualified to run the lab. There's a lot of principles that you can learn by just reading about this kind of stuff. Marketing Sherpa has a great landing page handbook with all kinds of examples of heat maps and stuff like that. There's principles about Marketing Sherpa. SHERPA. Yeah, you should all go to marketingsherpa.com and get on all their free newsletters if you're not already. But there's all these principles that are developed from these kinds of studies, and if you're just kind of doing random stuff, you don't have to because people already know certain things about the way that people navigate and work with websites. Here's one thing that we caught in our lab was we had this navigation over here, and then when you mouse over it, it would pop this thing up. It had sort of like a little pop-up deal. I think that's on the next page to show what the pop. This is a close-up. Well, that's sort of a close-up. But when you pop up, it would sort of do something. Well, the X's are clicks. So in this heat map, a user comes into the lab and you give them some assignments or whatever, and they navigate through your website, and then the machine records where they're looking. So the more they look there, then it's red. So whatever the assignment was here to buy something, And one of the things that you notice too, I should point out just while we're here, there's a couple, I can give you a few principles about the way people look at websites, is that people look at human faces. People read certain things. People read captions, they read headlines, and they read PSs. So if it's a sales letter, that's why you always see a PS, because people will read that. And if you know people are going to read it, then you want to always put your best statements there in the PS. That's why direct response sales letters always have a PS, because people always read that. People also read captions, and people also read headlines. On a web page, another thing that people will always read is blue underlined links. Part of the conversion process of a website is getting people to not bounce. And so really what you're trying to do is get people to click on something and go deeper into the website. You look at time on the site and the number of page views and things like that. And the trick is to get to people to interact with your website more and have a little bit more skin in the game on your site, as opposed to going back to Google and looking for the next one. And so the action that you want is generally for people to click on something, so you have to use blue underlined links. No fancy graphics or anything like that. People, it's just ingrained. How many people already know this principle? I mean, this has kind of been, we've been putting this out there and people have been talking about this for a while. People, when they first come on the internet, that's the first thing they learn is a blue underlined link, and it's almost like subconsciously you'll get a lot more clicks if the links are just normal and blue and underlined. Well, anyway, so we had this navigation over here, and it turned out, and people were trying to click on it, and nothing was happening. They're like, click, 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 and it turns out that only, like this area wasn't a hotspot, only you had to click on the actual text. And so you shouldn't make people have to click a few times in order to get what they think is going to happen. It's called an affordance. Do you know the word affordance? Do you know what affordance means? An affordance is a visual clue about what an object does. So if you see like a piece of equipment or a motorcycle or something you ride or whatever, if it has little grips for the handlebars, it just tells you mentally, subconsciously, that your hand goes there. Do you know what I mean? That's an affordance. There's affordances on websites, and it has to match what people expect. If you frustrate the users, which is a usability problem, then it will be the results will be suboptimal. So that was an example. We caught people clicking in the lab, and we were able to catch that before we actually went live and shipped it. So consistency is kind of the key. You want the expectations to match what they actually get. Let's talk about the funnel. With the goals for the website, this is basically what we're talking about. Homepage bounce, add a cart, start at the checkout. You put things in the cart, and then you go to checkout. Each step of the checkout is a stage of the funnel, and then whether they buy or not, success, yes or no. And the key to all this stuff is testing, is split testing. You guys would not believe how many people will be doing internet marketing and making money and running a business and say that they're internet marketers, and they're not split testing anything. People will go months and years before they even start testing. They put up the site and go, well, that looks good. And then they hire a better web designer, and they pay him a couple $1,000s, and he makes it look better. Well, that looks better. If you're not split testing, you're not marketing. You might be doing a lot of other things, but you're not marketing. Maybe it's a hobby. I don't know what it is, but you're not marketing if you're not split testing. And it's not that hard to figure out what to split test. You know, a different picture on the home page, a headline on the home page. I mean, just pick one thing at a time and just do it. You don't have to get into all the multivariate testing, complicated stuff that we do now with expensive software. Some of that software is not even that expensive anymore, but just basic split testing makes you a marketer. And if you're not, anything you're doing, whether it's a headline, the price point, the offer, the PSs, the color of the background, anything, the picture, to start doing that. You're sending every other website visitor to a different version. One guy gets this headline, one guy gets that headline. Next guy gets that headline, next guy gets that headline. And then you run a bunch of traffic through it, and then you see which one wins. Just like when you do Google AdWords, that's one of the best practices for Google AdWords. You know that the key to Google AdWords is getting a higher click-through rate, right? Because then over time, your ads will go higher and higher and higher for less and less money. And the key to getting a higher click-through rate is to split test your ads. So if you don't know that or whatever, I mean, write that down. But that's like one of the keys for Google AdWords is to continually run 2 ads and then uncheck the feature in Google where they'll optimize it. You don't want them to optimize it. You want them to run the ad every other one so you can develop a winner. And then once you develop a winner, you keep that ad, throw away the other one, and go write another one and continually try to beat your control. Another thing I should mention, by the way, that's kind of fun is is people, when they start getting good at like the search engine marketing, they do a lot of testing of their AdWords. One of the things you don't see a lot of people do that's actually pretty profound is you could split test. I mean, you can tweak the copy on your organic listings. Okay? Let me show you what I mean. So the question is, what's better than being number one on Google? Well, sure, but let's say you have a site. Once you're number one, that's as good as you can do, right? Wrong. Wrong. Huh? Well, sure, but I mean, but you're number one. See, this people don't even think this way. I'm going to give you a big this is sort of a big deal. Let's go to Google and we type in wedding favors. Okay, and so you have all these people. Well, that's weird. Oh, that's the ad. I thought it looked white. Okay, so well, that's kind of neat. So we're running an ad with it says /coupon. That's a good example of something that you want to test in your. That's pretty good. I didn't know we were doing that. You see, that's one of the examples of what you can test in your AdWords. It's not just the title of your AdWords, and like adorable wedding favors. Maybe that's better than wedding favors. I don't know. But you test the copy, but test the URL. So here, try the word coupon. Maybe more people are likely. Again, the higher the click-through rate you get, then the less you have to pay against your competitors. Anyway, that's a pretty good idea. And just coupon. Maybe people want a coupon, they'll go there. But anyway, let's look at the organic results. So oh, wow. Okay, so we're number 3. These two just switched, by the way. That's a pretty big deal. This is one of our students that's always been in StomperNet. Now, what do you think is... See, look at this. You see these things, and you know how Google bolds the words that you typed in? So this blue underlined part is going to be kind of a big deal. But this copy matters. So right here, we suggested rewriting the meta description tag. So instead of just saying personalized wedding favors, bridal shower favors, wedding directions, corporate party favors, low price, see, lowest price is guaranteed. That's good if that shows up. They'll grab a snippet, but often you have control over that. What about, let me see if I can find another example. But the point is, just like you can control your click-through rate on your AdWords, you could control the click-through rate of your organic results. And a lot of people never thought about that. So here's what we wrote. Adorable wedding favors, click or dial, toll-free for truly unique wedding favors. We've got the best prices guaranteed, exclamation point. Do you see how that copy could do better than some random snippet that Google pulled off your page? Of course the copy can make a difference. It's not unusual to double a click-through rate from testing your ads and getting good at it. Now, if you double the click-through rate of an ad, how much more traffic are you going to get? A lot. But what gets more clicks, the free or the paid? The free by a lot. So if you can tweak the copy on that and make an impact there, it's going to be a huge result. And it's still free, but you get a lot more traffic. So what you could do is do it manually. Take your 10, 20, 30, 50. Eventually, you want to take about your top 50 keywords, track every week where you rank for them, and software will do that very inexpensively. And then get your click-through rate for all your top 100 keywords. Now, how would you do that? Well, you have the data. If you're running AdWords, every time this page loads, you have an impression. And Google AdWords will tell you that. And then every time you have a click, your own server log will tell you that. So now you have the numerator and the denominator, and you know the click-through rate of your organic, say, top 100 keywords, or top 50 keywords, or your top 10 is probably half your whatever.
Is it organic ones or paid ones?
Organic. But you don't know how many times people search wedding favors on Google that day. But if you're running an ad at the same time, you do. That's the denominator. How many people searched wedding favors today? Your AdWord that loads will tell you that. And then how many actually clicked on your organic result? Your own server logs will tell you that. And now you can go to, say, your top 10, 20, 50, 100 keywords and graph your click-through rate. And over time, you should know, I'm number 3, my click-through rate should be this. I'm number 7, my click-through rate should be that. And you could look for holes. I mean, generally, if you've got, I like to say, here's a little tip. If you can't make money in paid, you can't make money in free. So if you can't afford to run AdWords at something to at least be on the page as some offer that's going to have enough lifetime value to the customer to make sense, then you shouldn't be wasting your time trying to optimize for that keyword anyway. Because it's way more expensive to do all that kind of stuff. Even though you think it's free, it's really not. It's time and effort and all that. So assuming that you've got a decent offer that you can run an ad anywhere on the page, then then you can get the denominator. And if you find your denominator and your numerator, and then you start looking at your click-through rates, you'll see ones that, wait a minute, I'm number 6. I should be getting a whatever % click-through rate. I'm only getting half that. Well, go tweak the copy. And that's way more important than clicking the ads. Little tip. Of course, where the traffic comes from matters. If somebody searches just wedding favors versus somebody searches chrome heart bottle stopper, 1 or 2 keywords, people tend to be researching. 3 or 4 more keywords, people tend to be buying. If it comes from a paid ad, it's different than coming from free. If it comes from an affiliate recommendation, it's different than just a random Google search. So you have these different ways that you get traffic to matter. But then also the usability and the design. So the question is, how do you think about the design and the usability? And the answer is, it really doesn't matter. You want the usability factors to be as good as possible, and you want the design factors to be as well designed as possible. And for the most part, it's not that mutually exclusive. Because over time, what happens is that the best practices of web design get more well settled. So you're not going to see somebody do right-hand navigation. I mean, just don't do that. That's just not the way websites are supposed to work. So all the design starts to look, people sort of know what it's supposed to look like over time. So if you put your design into your pictures and things like that, as long as the navigation's in the right place, it's pretty synergistic. The main ways you can decrease homepage bounce: letting people know where things are, what they want, making it clear, decreasing frustration, general good design, clear calls to action, and understanding people's goals and language. Sometimes you sell stuff where people are just researching and need that. Other times people are buying and they need that, and you've got to kind of do it on one page. So you've got to, and again, that's back to being inside the mind of the customer. If you're selling a big, expensive software product and you're just trying to do lead generation, sometimes you need to catch people early in the sales cycle, and so you've got to appeal to both things. If you have a general store e-commerce site, is it a long sales cycle? So, for example, wedding favors, our conversion rate, usually around 2%. Baby gifts, usually around 6 to 7%. Why is it so much higher? It's the same designer, the same company, the same platform. Why would it be so much higher conversion rate for baby gifts than wedding favors? Well, with wedding favors, you're talking about buying something that you're going to give to every single person that comes to your one wedding. You're going to think about that for a while. With a baby gift, you're trying to cross something off your list and be done with it. And you go there, and it looks like they have a money-back guarantee, and it looks like they're credible, and they're actually going to ship the product, and you're just done with that. Great, looks good. So it's a much longer sales cycle. And the intent of the user when they come to your page matters. So here, with the exact same site, we put people in the lab, give them a different task. Here we said, go buy a product that you think would be good. You actually are a bride. You've got a pretty high budget. Money's not really an object. Your dad's paying for it, and he has a lot of money. And you want something that looks really good that you think your guests are really going to enjoy. That's the sort of a descriptor that you would give to people in your usability lab. Over here we said you need to find a chrome heart bottle stopper. You see, so right here they have a specific intent, and they're just going up and down the navigation. You see where their eyes are more focused than over here. Over here, they're just kind of looking around, browsing to see if they see an interesting product. Over here, they're trying to look in the navigation. And that's one of the reasons that we find that one of the best things you can do if you're going to end up with a lot of navigation like that is break it up into categories. Because people just get a little bit frustrated when they have to just read up and down so much stuff. And if you break it up a little bit, that's a big lift. Here's an example of 2 different funnels. So you track all this stuff with Google Analytics. And so here's how many people come in and don't bounce that got past the first page and didn't just leave. And then how many add to cart. So here, this is kind of interesting. On wedding favors, a lot more people would add it to the cart. But then it goes down after that. On the baby gifts, a lot fewer people add to cart. A lot fewer. Like here, like 30% of the people would add to cart. And here, like less than 10. But of those, most would buy, and it this is like a lot more would add to the cart, but then the conversion rate ends up lower. So you want to know what your funnel is, because that then tells you where you can focus your efforts. This was kind of funny. We had a split test on what's the better thing to put on your button, buy now or add to cart. So we tested thousands and thousands of people coming to the site with different buttons. What do you guys think? It turns out, here's the creative. That's what the add to cart button looked like, and there's what the buy now button looked like. You see a pattern there? It turned out it was like a day of the week thing. And so we're a few weeks into this now, and it's quite something. It turns out that I forget which one works better on the weekends. And so when the data gets to be statistically significant, then we can start doing it. Right now we're still testing. It's kind of hard to believe that Saturday and Sunday you want one all day Saturday and Sunday, and then during the week you want the other one the whole time in order to optimize. But interesting stuff you can find if you measure. And so Google Analytics will let you do this, and it's free. You can put in the pages of whatever the pages are for your different sales process, and then they'll pull up really cool reports. And you can actually, it's not too complicated. Other than the normal call that they give you, you can do a couple things and show them what your actual pages are, and they will give you really cool reports and show you graphically where you're getting people in, the percentage of each stage of your funnel, and you can very easily see where your opportunities are to start testing different things. Okay, some stuff about conversion. How much time do we have? Let me just cover a couple things real quick. We're back on shapes. When we're talking about circles and pie charts and where you spend your time, triangles are good for prioritizing things. I'll give a couple examples. This at our company, we describe our culture. This is how we describe our culture where we work. I like to say to people, even in job interviews, and kind of emphasize all the time that we sort of have an unusual company. I tell this to people in job interviews. Say the guy's name is Bob, and I'm interviewing him. I'm like, Bob, we have kind of unusual organization here. It might be a little different from the cultures that you've maybe been used to, because we actually demand that 100% of the people here love their job. And, that's kind of weird, but we actually sort of demand that. And so if you come here, we want you to really like your job. And if you don't like your job, or if it ever changes, I want you to come tell me, because it might be that you just don't like what you're doing. Maybe you don't like doing that. Well, if a company's growing really quickly, there's just tons of opportunity, and we could do something different. But we'll do that only for a little while, because our commitment to our peers is that you're going to come to work with people that really like their job. And so at the end of the day, there's 5 million people here in Atlanta. We'll get someone that likes the job. The second thing, though, it's not enough to just come to work and be smiling. You've also got to be productive. And productivity is results divided by time. And if you have a great attitude and you're just not productive, we'll work with you a little bit longer. Maybe you just need a time management class or help prioritizing or getting in sync with the priorities a little bit better or whatever. And we'll work with you on that. But again, at the end of the day, that's kind of required. Beyond that, moving up in the company and everything is EE, or everything else. And we don't really care. Your resume, your background, all that kind of stuff. Once you're here, you're kind of part of the family, and all that stuff just doesn't matter. Now, that's what helps you kind of go on and move up in the company, but attitude and productivity are the two non-negotiables. Then you have squares. Squares are good for prioritizing. This is about executing linearly and thinking visually. A great exercise to do is, when you have your group meetings, or if you're doing it with yourself, that's okay too, but don't just be walking around having thoughts. Put them down on paper and think visually. What should we do more of? What should we do less of? What should we stop doing? What should we start doing? See what I'm saying? And then you can divide all those into what is immediate payoff, what's long-term payoff, what's little benefit, what's big benefit. And so you want to graph this stuff out a lot more than most of us do. We're thinking about our business all the time, but if you put the stuff on paper and look at it visually, you can get a lot more concrete action items out of it. And finally, we have lines. Like I said, the idea of visualizing numbers with graphs is profound. I'm going to talk about 2 ways to do that, or as examples. One important concept that I don't have time to go into a lot of detail on, but just know this. The idea of trailing 12-month charts is one of the most profound things you can do to manage your business and know what's going on. A trailing 12-month chart is where you just add up all 12 months of, say you're tracking sales. Add up all your sales by month for the last 12 months, add them all together and write down the number. Then the next month, erase a year ago that month and add on last month, and you still have 12 months. So every you see what I'm saying? So every month you're going to have a number that represents the last 12 months sales. Then the next month it's a month after, and it's always 12 months added together, but it goes on. And so what it does is it removes seasonality and lets you get a just crystal clear picture of what's going on. And it's great. So you just need about 4 or 5 of them. You just want your revenue. You want your, in our case with products, your gross margin, your net profit, your GSA, or your expenses as a percentage of your revenue. How much does it cost to operate your company as a percentage of your revenue? So general selling administrative expenses over revenue. And in our case, inventories or whatever. But really just like those 4. Revenue, gross margin, net profit, and expenses per revenue. And if you'll just every month add up the last 12 months and chart that number and graph that, it takes you like 2 minutes per month to know exactly if you're on the right track or not. It's the coolest thing ever because that trailing 12-month chart, that graph will show you without any seasonality because it just takes the last 12 months. And the whole answer is if it's going up, that's good, and if it's going down, that's bad. Does that make sense? It's the coolest thing ever. So do trailing 12 months. Now, if you haven't been in business 12 months, then you just kind of do it as you're going along and graph things. So those are the top 4 or 5 that you want to do. But you have to graph your numbers because and the challenge is that people have money coming in, money going out, and they often don't really have a strong feel for what's going on. So I got this example from Eben too. We were just talking about visualization and numbers and charts. And a lot of us look at numbers, but until you draw the graph, you can't see it. And the way Eben describes it, he says that there is something magical and profound about graphing numbers. And so I just think this is the best example. And this is kind of what we do anyway. And so I'm going to explain it like this. If you have money coming in and money going out, write this one down, put a big star by this. Here's what you need to do. Especially if you don't have 12 months of history where you can go back and really see the trends and stuff. This is what you need to do. And when you're in business and you do have money coming in and you do have money going out, put a big star by this one and do this exercise. This is not a little thing. This is a profound, magical thing. Take those 5 things, whether you're just starting on day 1 or you have a little bit of history, just take those 5 things and every day write down the number. So how much did you sell? And pick 5. How much cash hit the bank from the merchant account? How much cash went out of the bank? Just these 5 things. How much revenue did you get? How many sales did you get? How much cash hit the bank? Mostly it's merchant account for most of us, so it just kind of happens right away. But what were your sales? How much cash left the bank? What were your expenses? How much did you spend on AdWords? What percent of AdWords were your sales? Whatever you think your top 4 or 5 numbers are, doesn't matter. But take those 5 things, and every day for 90 days, write them down. It doesn't have to be you that does it either, but you have to physically look at it and then graph it. And what will happen is you will be really amazed at you will just develop this sense of what's going on in the business like you can't believe. And it's the graph that makes the difference. Tracking your expenses per sales. Does that make sense? And so just do that exercise because you're going to get busy in the business, you're hiring people and all this stuff's going on, but take your 5 key numbers and make sure that every single day they're written down and you're graphing the trends that they're headed in. If you guys are interested how the internet's changing things, a good key metric is for the whole country is look at the 500 most productive companies in the country, the Inc. 500, the fastest growing companies. And if you look at their productivity number, which is how much goods and services they produce divided by the labor that it costs to do them, for 20 years it would grow from 73 to 93, it grew at 1.5% per year. I mean, these are already the fastest growing companies, but it's a number that you can look at. Those fastest growing companies, their productivity went up every year by 1.5%. After the internet sort of started, it was 2.5% a year, and now, from 2002 to 2005, it's 3.5%. So the average revenue per employee is significantly going up. I think it's got to be because of the internet and communication and stuff like that. And I don't know. But it's going up for everyone, so it kind of gets more competitive and stuff. I don't know if we have time to talk about long tail. Yeah, I'll share this with you. This kind of. Have you guys read The Long Tail? Chris Anderson's book? You should read it. Mostly we think about the long tail for search, right? Few keywords get all the search volume, and then it drops off quickly after that. Are you guys familiar with the long tail concept? Do you know have you ever heard that long tail? It's the idea is that let's say that your market is wedding favors. And what happens is a lot of people search weddings, just the word weddings, it gets all the search volume. And a lot of people search like wedding favors. Not very many people search chrome heart bottle stopper Florida beach wedding, or beach, wedding destination wedding favor Florida, and Florida is spelled wrong. You know what I mean? Not very many people search that particular keyword phrase. And what happens is that the search volume drops off very quickly. So a bunch of people search weddings, a bunch of people search wedding favors, and then you get down to, wine wedding favors, and it's much less than the wedding favors. So it drops off quickly, but then it goes out for like ever. And that's the long tail of search. And that's why you can compete in SEO, and that's why it makes more sense to build one big site instead of a lot of little sites trying to go after this. Just build out one big site, writing articles and adding content all the time. And if somebody goes out and searches, beach heart bottle stopper Daytona or whatever, your article or your page or your site or whatever will come up. And the thing is, hardly anyone searches that. But there's so many of them that if you add it all together, it's a ton. So that's kind of the way SEO works. Well, long tail also applies to products. And it turns out that with traditional bricks and mortars retailers, that typically 20% of your products would be 80% of your revenue and most all your profits. They're turning a lot more, they're more profitable, stuff like that. Well, as an e-tailer, how much does it cost to add another product to your site, especially if you're not even inventorying it? Some dropshipper is. What's it cost to add a product to the site? Zero. The shelf space is zero marginal cost. And then it turns out that like 2% of your products will be 50% of your sales, the real kind of high movers. 90% of your online inventory might only be 25% of your revenues, but it might be a third of your profits because it's all these niche websites that you can do because your cost of storing the product is zero. And so you can find hard to find niche stuff that's not available in Walmart. And then that might be a third of your profits. So just interesting to know about. Let's see what else I wanted to cover. One thing I want to tell you about is just if you're choosing a market, because a lot of us are kind of involved in deciding what we want to go into. Let me just give you a couple of tips. One thing is there's two types of businesses. One type of business, when it gets to January 1st of every year, you have all the customers that you got last year, and now you're up to this point, and then you go get some more customers. Another type of business, people sort of buy from you one time, and then you have to go get another customer. And so every year in January, you start over. And every week you start over. And every day you start over. Don't start a business like that. That's the way wedding favors is. Kind of sucks. That's why wholesale is good, because now our customers, another reason to think about wholesale, because they buy over and over and over. But you want to go in a market that's not just like, oh, well, people have, whatever, so people have a passion about this, that's a good market, so I'll go create a product for that market. Well, your product has to be something that addresses an urgent problem. And another thing, if you want to do start a business today, I think it makes way more sense to do internet marketing than a lot of other things. I mean, what are you going to do? Go buy a Subway or something like that, or a franchise, or spend all this money? Of course not. Do internet marketing. So one of the keys is to take advantage of the stuff that's out there, which is search engine marketing. So go into markets where people are actually actively searching for the product. Now, if you already have a product, your business, or whatever, and people aren't searching for what you sell because it's so new and they never heard of it, you can still use search engine marketing, but you've got to go find other ways to kind of back in that, find products that your target market is searching for. It's much easier if you have a choice to go into a market where people are actually actively searching for stuff. And do one where people are going to buy other things over and over, so there's sort of a natural back end. A couple of thoughts I'll leave you with. And then I would just kind of want to mention free IQ real quick. in this whole concept of there's a lot to do and a lot of speed, this African proverb from the book "The World Is Flat" is kind of interesting. How many people of you have read "The World Is Flat" by Thomas Friedman? It's a great book. You should read it. They talk about offshoring and outsourcing and a lot of really profound ways that the world's changing. But this concept of speed, things are definitely speeding up, and this African proverb really tells a story. It goes like this. Every morning in Africa, a gazelle wakes up, and it knows that it must run faster than the fastest lion or it will be killed. At the same time, every morning a lion wakes up, and it knows it must run faster than the slowest gazelle or it will starve to death. And the moral of the story is it doesn't matter if you're a lion or gazelle. When the sun comes up, you'd better be running. And so for us as internet marketers, I think sometimes we feel like that a lot. Joe Vitale says, money loves speed. So don't just think about how you can have a better product, have a better market. Think about how you can hire someone good. Think about how you can do it faster. Like I said, the last thing we need around here is another good idea. My favorite quote from Mario Andretti, who says, if you have everything under control, you're not moving fast enough. So if you don't feel like you have everything under control, you're in good stead. Generally, growing your revenues faster will solve most of your problems. So think about sales. Don't think about other stuff. You've got to really understand where the money comes from. I'm just going to share a couple things. When I was in college, one of the things that I did during the summers was work with the Southwestern Company and sell books door to door, and we would do this about 80 hours a week. And it was kind of interesting because we would literally sell books door to door in this college program. I did this for 4 summers. And we would start at 8 in the morning and go till 9:30 at night, 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. So it's literally 80 hours a week. We were either at one house or looking for the next one. And that was kind of a tough job in a lot of ways. But I, every summer we'd say the same thing. We'd say, well, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to finish this summer. I'm not going to be a quitter and go home. And we made a lot of money doing this because we were really running our own business at a very early age. So we learned a lot of good things. And I was going to share a couple of them with you. But we would always say, well, I'm not going to quit, but I'm not ever doing this again. And then next summer we'd go back and do the same thing, and it was kind of fun. But one of the things that we learned was, and I think this has been helpful, where I see other entrepreneurs and other would-be entrepreneurs that are starting businesses, and sometimes I wonder, what's the difference? They're engaged, they're smart, they're interested, they're trying, they're working, and they're just not making any money. And you see that all the time. And other people start the business and they seem to do a couple things right or whatever, and all of a sudden money's coming in and they're hiring other people to do the work and it's growing, and what's the difference? One thing I think that I learned selling books door to door that I could share with you is something to put a star by it without you having to go out and sell books door to door 80 hours a week, which would be much preferable, is the idea that when you're in commission sales like that, you learn very quickly that you learn what you get paid for doing. And you don't get paid for the other stuff. So when you're doing your books, you don't get paid for that, right? The only thing, if you're in commission sales, the only thing you get paid for is sitting in front of a customer asking for an order. That's it. So if you're not doing that, maybe it's necessary, maybe it's not, but you're not making any money. And the problem is in business, it's so complicated, it's not as easy as it is for a commission salesperson because you think all this stuff has to be done. And you think, well, if I don't do it, who will? And so I have to do that. And you feel like you're being productive. You feel like you're being an engaged, smart business owner by doing all this stuff. And if you want to grow a business faster, I think you've just got to get really, really crystal clear on what it is that you do that makes money and do a lot more of that. And if it's, if your passion is this, then you can do that. If your passion is something else, you can do that. But if you're in business and you want to make money now and in the future and you want to do it faster, you've got to get real clear about what it is that actually makes money and do more of that. As far as all the other stuff, you want to have other people doing it and you want to have your metrics in place so that you can keep your eye on it, but you do the stuff that makes money. So, hope that was helpful, you guys. Appreciate being here, and maybe we'll go have some fun and see what other kind of challenges we have.